Thank you for joining us on the Winning at Selling podcast. I'm Professor Scott Plum of the Minnesota Sales Institute, and with me is Bill Hellkamp of Reach Development Systems.
You never get a second chance to make a first impression, or so the saying goes. If that's true, then we should have a better understanding of how people judge us and how they determine if we are the type of person with whom they want to do business. Likewise, we should understand when we start making those impressions on others. So put on your business attire, comb your hair, as Scott and I discuss first impressions and other interesting ideas on episode 538 of the Winning at Selling podcast.
I think it's a very good point. People have to get up and get dressed now to go out and have.
Well, that's kind of what prompted me to start thinking about this is, first of all, we've got a generation that doesn't wear ties.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that I used to buy all my ties at Kohl's, and they don't sell ties anymore.
Oh, wow.
Or at least not very many.
Yeah.
And so people aren't wearing ties, and that's fine. Fashion's changed, but you know, a T-shirt and dungarees isn't my idea of a professional dress either. So we've got some things we have to start looking at.
Yeah, I used to rent all my videos from Blockbuster too.
That's right.
I don't do that anymore either.
Yeah, but you do still wear underwear and pants, right? When you go to...
I do.
Oh, so you know, some things don't change.
We don't need to leave that image into our listeners' minds.
I might leave it in anyway.
That we're covering is called The Theory of Accountability by Sam Silverstein. We had Sam on the show a couple episodes ago, so you can look that up on our website at winningatselling.com. We're going to be covering part 2, chapters 3, 4, and 5. And we'll start off with chapter 3. And this one kind of got into stories about 3 different mentors and all very good stories. And in fact, one of them is from Jackie Robinson, the baseball player.
Yeah, and Branch Rickey.
Yeah. And that was interesting history of American culture. But what I really took away from this chapter is in the first sentence, and that is creating the experience means creating a clear mental picture of a compelling future you want to step into. And then we have to ask the question, what does that future look like? And this could be a great team exercise and really learn about everybody's expectations on your team. And as we're getting into accountability, we need to be able to keep the context of the definition of accountability in mind. And accountability is creating an experience and creating a team where they're committed to a common goal and everybody follows the expectations and increases the standards to be able to deliver on that expectation. Is there another theme or definition of accountability that you use, Bill?
Well, I don't know that it's necessarily a team. I can have individual accountability. I can be accountable to myself. I'm a business of one, so I don't have this huge team that I have to mentor. I mentor people individually. For me, this experience he talks about is the dream or the goal. What do you want the results of this accountability? So this is the experience is the E in E equals MC squared. Mm-hmm. And the C is commitment. So if I'm going to not double my commitment, but multiply my commitment by itself. That's a big growth. That means I'm going to have something that's very valuable, very important for me in order to do the work.
The accountability equation is experience equals mindset plus commitment squared.
Actually, times commitment squared.
Times commitment squared.
So it's a lot of timesing going on there, which is a big multiplier. Yeah. Well, he talks, the title of this is The 3 Mentors, and he has 3 stories that are told here. Joe Kennedy, the mentor for his son, JFK, and then a young woman, Malala, whose father found it was important for her to get an education in a culture where women weren't supposed to get educations. But I thought really important was the quote that he started the chapter with. The mediocre mentor tells, there's mentor number 1. The good mentor explains, there's mentor number 2 again. And the greatest mentors inspire. And that's by Lucia Ballas Trainer. And I think that that's important, as we need to think about how we can inspire people that we're mentoring.
Right. And I was surprised how many people these days don't have mentors. It's always an interview question that I ask is, who's a mentor of yours, or who had the biggest impact or impression on your life? And it's usually parents, which is good. I don't say that that's bad, but when it comes to business, there's some things that in the business environment other people can teach you that your parents can't. And it's important for us as mentees to be able to look up to somebody who's a few years ahead of us, a few steps ahead of us, and is able to share some of the sharp edges as we navigate the maze and make sure that we don't get nicked or cut on those sharp edges. And they're very
well. I think, yeah. My parents were. I love my parents, but my dad was in the military. He wasn't in business.
Mm-hmm.
So what could he teach me? Well, he could teach me how to deal with people. He did a pretty good job of that. But at the same time, he couldn't teach me how businesses work because he had no idea. He had no idea about profit, making a profit, maybe some budgetary things, but he didn't know those things. And so he couldn't teach what he didn't know. He couldn't mentor what he didn't know. It was limited.
Right.
And so we need to find somebody who can mentor us that has been where we want to go, that has walked through the minefield in front of us and can help us.
Yeah, yeah. And seek them out, seek those people out. And they want to be able to pass on a legacy. And we need to initiate it as mentees to start conversations with mentors.
Yeah. But I think this chapter is all about the dream too. Set up that experience. What is it you want to get? So what's chapter 4 about?
Chapter 4 is the future begins right now. And that kind of triggered my anxiety a little bit. I put a little pressure on me. Your future is emerging in an instant. And it's like, whoa, I don't know if I'm ready. I'm getting ready.
In the 70s, we had a saying, today is the first day of the rest of your life. Do you remember that?
I do.
That's kind of it, isn't it? Right? Your future begins right now.
Exactly. Oh, it passed. Now we got a new future.
Put a pin in the past and move forward.
Right. But I think too often people get frustrated on things that they cannot control versus giving energy to the things that they can control.
Absolutely.
And that was one of the themes of this chapter. I
thought that was the main theme of it. To me. He asked great questions on page 47 when he said, control the things you can control. Is this how I want to think? Is this how I want my personal relationships to be? Is this how I want to be of service to others, right? Is this the impact I want to have? And I don't think we ask ourselves those questions enough. And I think a mentor, to go back to the previous chapter, can challenge us to say, I remember this is funny. It's a funny story. So when I was a kid, in second or third grade, I was going to Catholic school. And I used to draw this little picture of a hippie with, flies flying around his head. And I remember Sister Theodoretta grabbed it from me once and she said, "Is this who you want to be?
Yeah.
Why are you drawing this picture? Why are you putting this in your mind? Is this where you want to be?" And, she could have been one of the early personal development writers, right? And say, dream about what you want to be, not what you don't want to be.
Right. Wow, very true. Yeah, inspirational question, and to remember that for
a challenging question, right?
Right. Yeah, very. I think a lot of people, they surrender to complacency and they're keeping a grip on bad habits and they're staying in their comfort zone will limit us, from growing. Does that support the image of the compelling future that you want to step into? Is complacency, bad habits, comfort zone, and to really think about, where are you most comfortable? And then how much time do you spend there? And some people, when they're asked that question, they just realize how they really don't get out into unfamiliar environments and having the confidence in unfamiliar environments and to be able to be prepared for that. And that's can really reduce stress. And I'm getting off topic a little bit.
Boy, you went way off topic.
I am. I'm up in another lane.
I was starting to think, where is he going with this? But I found out you don't know, so that's good.
I'm going to call it. Get back in the track.
We're going to call a timeout and go to chapter 5.
Okay, and this, the moment of truth is a powerful moment. This is one of the quotes in the book. It always propels us forward towards a decision that creates a newer and fuller expression of the person we are meant to be. And I think it's really important to, there's another exercise. I think I wrote it down in the notes of the book, but think about 5 words that you want other people to use to describe you in your absence. And that's who you can be: compassionate, committed, authentic, whatever those are. Pick your words and then live those words and action them in your daily behaviors with everybody that you talk to, including the people you make the first impressions with, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But
Ben Franklin had a method. I don't know if you've ever read the Ben Franklin about his personal development method, but he picked out 13 things that he wanted to improve on. And he wrote them on cards and he put them in his pocket. And every day he looked at those cards, and they would be like, get rid of gluttony, don't be gluttonous, watch what you say, things like that. And but he said, I had to look at them every day, and he would work on one of them for a week. So he had 13 of them. So each one of them would get 4 weeks during the year. But this week I'm going to work on not overeating. And then next week I'm going to work on, and every day I'm going to look at that card and I'm going to remind myself, and your five words that you want described to describe you in the future. You can't move to a new space by accident.
Right.
You have to plan it out and make a decision and say, this is who I want to be. I don't really, it's not that I don't like myself, but I don't like this aspect of me. I could improve on this aspect of me. And I think your idea is a great idea. Whether it's 5 words, 2 words, 6 words, 13 things, start to make a decision on where you want to go. Right. And this is part of the future begins right now again. Yeah. But decide where you want to go and start moving yourself in that direction.
Yeah. Yeah. And I sometimes can get a little critical and feel like people should be always performing at the highest standard possible. I heard this great quote the other day, and it was, don't take hope away from somebody when that's all that they have. And it's like, wow, that is so true. And there are some people that are just struggling, and we can come in and we can just capsize them in just one sentence. And what are we to win by doing that? And if compassionate is your word, and that's one of mine, why would I have that kind of attitude that I want to rock somebody's boat versus saying, why do I want to take hope away from somebody when that's all that they have?
Yeah, I think a lot of people who think they're mentors do that. They're always critical. It's easy to find the person who's singing the wrong note, but it's hard to say to everyone who sang everything perfectly, great job again. Yeah. Or to the guy who hit the wrong note, hey, you hit 152 of the right notes. That's great. Let's work on this one, but we know you're on your way. And this is something I learned in Carnegie when I used to teach presentation skills, which I still do for myself. But people would say, be hard on me, really be critical of me. And they really didn't want that. And I would say, look, here's what you're doing great. And confidence is so important when you're speaking. Confidence is important in sales. If I'm critical of somebody all the time, they're never going to really get better. They're always going to be unsure.
Right. One of my mottos when I work with a company or a team is I want to be able to give them the content that they need to deliver the results that they want, but I also need to make them confident in applying the content. That's a true trainer is working on how can I give them the confidence to apply this new content?
That's right.
Because it's new and it's so easy not to do something. We're scared. I don't want to do that. I need to test it out on somebody that I know. No, you'll never test it out unless you try it on somebody that you don't know the next day.
Well, and that's what we say. We're not educators. We don't want you to know what to do. We're trainers. We want you to do what you should do. Yeah. We want you to act in a different way. Education is knowing something different. Training is being able to do something different and feel confident in my capability to do that. The one thought I want to finish this chapter with is because it's about comfort zone, right? So get out of your comfort zone. Yeah. I don't know who said it, but everything you want is on the other side of fear.
Yeah, exactly.
John Maxwell says everything good is uphill. Right. And so it's not going to be, you can't laze about and hope good things happen.
Right. You can't just go out in the mailbox and hope that it arrives.
That's right.
You have to be able to make it happen yourself. So great book. And I'm really glad that we had Sam on the show. And I'm really looking forward to learning more about how he creates an accountable culture within an organization.
Yeah, it's a lot of book left on accountability. So, well, our topic today is first impressions. And so I want to open with a story. A friend of mine told me this about himself. He's an avid golfer, good golfer too. His whole family golfs. And he said he was out one day golfing with maybe some people he didn't really know, a couple one guy he knew and two guys that he didn't know. And he made a bad putt, and he just kind of tossed his putter aside in disgust at himself, and picked it up and walked on. A couple of years later, he found out that he had an opportunity to do business with one of the gentlemen that he didn't know in the foursome. And when his friend asked him if he wanted to do business with my friend, the stranger said, I don't think so. He has too much of a temper.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't have any temper at all. But
Wow.
this one time he met him, he dropped his golf club in disgust. And this was their impression of him. So we make impressions all the time on people. And we really want to think about not only what first impression, oh yeah, I should comb my hair and brush my teeth and, not look sloppy. Those are kind of the easy ones. I think you have to think about, where do the first impressions start? And one of the things I want to talk about first is how you live your life in your community.
Mm-hmm.
Because you should be having an influence on your community by the way you live your life. And here's a little bit of self-challenge for myself. How do I act at sporting events?
Oh.
My kids were in baseball. I was not a good actor sometimes. I would get too emotionally involved in it and forget the real reason for the sport was to get these kids playing well together and learning some skills and et cetera. And I just got too wrapped up in the score and whether they were going to win the season and all those things. So I don't think I always behaved as well as I should. How do you behave in your neighborhood? Do you help out? Are you willing to help? I've got a neighbor of mine. He's a great guy. He's always willing to lend a tool. If you're working on something, he'll come over and say, hey, can I help you with that? He's a great car guy, so he can go to him with any questions. And he really puts out a real good, calm, professional appearance, but one also of helpfulness. So I think that's important. Right. Political functions. We just went through a political function. Now, I can put my yard sign up and see other people's yard signs up, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I have to not like that person or they have to not like me. But I think our political dealings have gotten to that point. So thoughts on how you live your life, Scott?
Yeah. I think sporting events. I mean, the Vikings game this weekend against the Bills was thinking about, how did we get there? Well, the kicker missed the extra point, which if they would have made the extra point, we would not have gone into overtime. So it boils down to that one thing. How did people react to that? I mean, it was like, I was fascinated by it, and I'm not a big sports fan. So I was like, wow, that's interesting. Let's see where this goes. And it always gets interesting when you look at a new situation, and are you irritated or are you curious when you get kind of caught off balance in creating that first impression in the people that you're around. I had a project one time, and I called up somebody that is doing training, and I said, I'm kind of overwhelmed right now, and I wanted to see if you're interested in working with me on this project. And they got real specific about it, and their response was, oh, I've never done that before. And I said, and you're not going to be doing it with me, because if that's your reaction versus fascinating, that sounds great. Yes, I'd love to do that. And to be able to accept things with curiosity. I'm working with a marketing company, and they kind of came back with a response of, well, that's not in the scope of work. And I called them up and I said, when you're hearing ideas that we'd like to incorporate, I would rather have you say, that sounds fascinating, and I'm really looking forward to working with you on that.
Let's explore that.
In addition to what we're already doing. And to look at the extra opportunity instead of reverting back to, well, that's not in the quote that we gave you. And the guy goes, oh, I'm really sorry that came off that way. And you're absolutely right. So think about, how am I responding or how am I reacting? And too often we're reacting and we're telling people how we feel versus responding and sharing with them what we think.
But I could look at both those examples, Scott, and even say that you have to be careful how you responded. Sure. When the person said, well, I've never done that before, instead of, he's not really saying necessarily, I can't do that, but he might be telling you, I haven't done that before, so I'm not going to bring an expertise to this to you that maybe that's what you're looking for. The customer could be saying, hey, that's not in the scope of work. I just want to make you aware that we need to relook at the contract or things like that. So we can react and not respond ourselves. And we always have to be very careful about how we do that. The second piece that I want to talk about with first impressions is when you first make direct contact with a prospect. So this can be my phone calls, can be messages I leave. What is my voice like? What is my attitude like? What is my level of confidence? We've all gotten phone calls, Scott, you and I, over the years, and you can just hear the trepidation in the person's voice. And because I train, I'm always a little bit more calm with those people and let them have their say. I don't like it when they won't take no for an answer, at least not the third time. I like a little persistence, but if it's not going to work, I'm going to save you time here. I think also then our text messages, our emails, punctuation is important to people. It may not be important to you if you've been brought up on a text world. And so you think, shorthand is good. I don't recognize most of the shorthand people use. And your shorthand might mean a totally different thing to me. Spelling is important. Punctuation means I can read that, because there's a big difference between let's eat grandma and let's eat grandma.
Yeah.
Right. That's just a comma, but it makes a big difference in what we're saying. So texts and emails, your punctuation, your spelling, and your shorthand are all things you need to be careful of.
Yeah. One is, I think too often salespeople apologize when something is running behind versus responding with, I'm grateful for your patience. Thanks for your understanding. And to express gratitude instead of an apology. And it really sets the relationship different by you're asking somebody that you're not getting to as quickly, and you're expressing appreciation for what they're doing for you, and instead of apologizing for what you're not doing for them. And it's just a different relationship at that point.
Yeah, is that kind of in that first message that you give with them, or that first direct contact?
I do. Anytime something is running behind or it's not what I expected, and I said, I'm really grateful for your patience in this. We've had a few things that didn't come together as quickly as we wanted to, and I will get back to you by the end of the day on the current status. Is that going to be okay? Sure, that'd be great. And then when it's solved, I said, I'm really grateful for your patience, and I'm really sorry for any inconvenience that this may have caused. One apology at the end after it's solved, period. Maintain credibility. Don't apologize all the time. People don't want to.
I think too much apologies might make you lose posture. You're kind of hat in hand. You're important. I'm not important. One of the things I think is important in this first thing is to maintain posture. I have a great offer for you. I have something important to talk to you about. Maybe you won't see it as important, but I don't see you as above me, but that we can form a partnership here. So, and I think that comes in my third point, and that's in making commitments. And this is, I know, a big part you've talked about before, but if I say I'll call you back in a week, call them back in a week. Don't call them back in 3 weeks. That's 2 weeks too late. If I'm going to say I'm going to send you some information, send them the information. Don't forget about it, and then send it 3 days later with an apology because you screwed up. So do what you say you're going to do is a great way to show that you are the type of person they want to work with.
And that delivers value too. And when you follow through on your promises and we're selling a service, that increases our value. And that's what people remember.
Yeah, I think it does increase our value and increases our credibility as well. The fourth point is an in-person appointment. Now, we're not doing a whole lot of those these days, it seems like, but I still think that you and I were in a meeting the other day, Scott. Scott was actually presenting, and I was in it watching, and a number of people said, it's so nice to get together with people again.
Yeah.
They really like to get together with people again. So if you're avoiding that, I would say you're losing opportunity. Look for whether if people want to get together in person, see if you can do it. If they want to get together on a phone or whatever, then do that. You have that option still. So on that in-person appointment, dress and grooming are still important. Your shoes should be shined. Your pants should not be sloppy. Your clothes shouldn't be tattered or frayed or really old in style. This is one I always saw with people presenting. If you've gotten a little bit fatter, buy new pants. Squeezing yourself into an old pair of pants that used to fit you does not make you skinny. It makes you look bad. So the grooming, a real big thing is preparation. I don't think enough salespeople put preparation into their appointments. They don't know enough about the company. They don't know about the players. They don't know about some problems that they can think of. They don't think about the appointment in advance. They just go in.
Wow. Yeah.
And then the last point is attitude. What's your attitude like? And that was what you were talking about, whether being apologetic or hat in hand, or what your posture is like.
Right. Right. Yeah. All very good stuff.
All right. And then we have web appointments, and we've done a lot more of those. And I talk about appearance. You still have to look good, comb your hair, look good, because it does show you. What's your lighting like? You have too much backlighting, they can't see your face. It's too bright, they can't see you. Your background looks ugly. And what your bandwidth is, your clarity is important too. So if you got a cheap, if you went with the cheapest provider and you're trying to do business from your home, that might be a mistake. So thoughts on web appointments for people?
Yeah, I think these are the ones that are probably a lot easier than in person. It's like, think about what your background's like. Think about, how you look on the screen. I had an interview with somebody and I could only see them from the nose up. And it's like, can't you even see yourself on the screen? I can only see half your face. I can't even see your mouth moving. and
I like when they're pointed up and I can see their ceiling fan going around and their forehead. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And they lean back in their chair and then you lose them. It's like, well, I mean, there's so many things that we can do to make sure that we have the right lighting.
One thing I learned too is don't look at the pictures don't look at the person on the screen, look at your camera.
Yeah.
And when you look at your camera, you're looking them in the eye. But if you're looking at the person on the screen, it looks like you're looking away from them.
Right.
And so I thought that was a really good idea that I heard from a professional.
Yeah. I've learned that when I'm looking at the person on the screen and not at the camera, it's not as intimidating. If I'm looking at the camera, the person feels intimidated, even though I'm miles away from them, and all I am is looking into the camera. And it can.
Why would the person feel intimidated?
Because I'm looking right at them and I'm almost staring them down.
Oh, I would disagree with that. I think if you're looking at the picture or you're looking down all the time, I never make eye contact with you.
Right.
So I think you need to, especially when you're presenting, look at the camera.
No, I agree with that. Yeah.
All right. Finally, follow up and follow through. A big part of any sales process. I do like to do a letter of understanding. I like to write a letter that says, here's what we talked about. Here's what I agreed to. Here's what you agreed to. Here's what I see the problem as, or here's what you explain the problem as. Am I getting this right? And what I like about a letter of understanding, first of all, it's very professional. But second of all, it says, this is what I heard in the meeting. If this isn't right, let me know.
Right.
And if they don't let you know, then you're probably on the right track. But if you're way off, generally they'll call me or they'll say, no, that's you misunderstood what I was saying. So I think a letter of understanding is really a good point. And I'll tell you, for me, it's a great tool for me. It clarifies what I was thinking about when I have to put it down on paper. And now it becomes my meeting notes and I can stick it right into my CRM.
Right. Makes it easy to stay on course with that too.
Absolutely.
Great stuff. And, the first impressions are so important. I mean, just think about it. People make a decision within, less than 3 seconds about whether this is going to be a pleasant experience or not, whether they're going to be guarded or not, whether they're going to get defensive or whether they're going to be open. And think about what's the most important aspect of any sales call is information. You as a salesperson need information from the prospect. And if you're not making that good impression, you're not going to get honest, truthful answers from the prospect. And you need them in order to prescribe the best solution.
Yeah, I think getting that trust built up and creating an honest dialogue is what your first impression really does. And if all they can think about is my shoes are sloppy or I'm sloppy or I didn't prepare well enough. I remember once going into an interview when I was really early in sales with my sales manager, and he sat down with the other person. He said, well, Jim, tell me what we've done for you in the past. And Jim said, you've done it, you should know. And we didn't do the preparation. And that really taught me not to look stupid, because I felt so stupid in that interview. And that was a bad first impression. It took me 6 months to overcome that.
Yeah. Wow, those are great lessons, and it has a direct impact on your behavior from that point forward. But
excellent. Well, I do have a resource. It's a video, my 2-minute selling videos. It's called "It's Always On." It's another golf story, but I think you'll like it.
Great. And our golden nugget today is from Jordan Peterson, and it is: compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who somebody else is today.
Wow.
And I
That's
think the
really
law of
powerful.
comparison is very, very, very destructive. And we're seeing it every single day on social media. I
Mm.
heard that line from him the other day, this weekend, when I was watching one of his videos. And it was like, boom, that is so true. I work alone. I don't have context of where I am. And who am I comparing myself to? And I'm like, well, compare myself to who I was yesterday. Bam! That's easy for me to do. And that increases my commitment to learning, growing, and changing.
Yeah, I
And
think that really supports chapter 4 in the accountability book,
yeah,
which is to do the things you can control. When we compare ourselves to others, we're looking at things we can't control. I can't control how successful someone else is. I can only control how successful I am. So, am I doing the right things better than I did yesterday? Is a great way to look at it rather than
right.
comparing myself to somebody who's probably lying. A real good experiment, if you want to see how successful people are, go to the ATM, and a lot of people will get a receipt and leave it there. Grab a handful of receipts out of that ATM, and I will bet you that 95% of those receipts show a balance under $200.
Wow. Wow.
That's how successful most people are.
Mm-hmm.
I heard on the radio today that they were talking about Thanksgiving dinner. We're coming up on Thanksgiving in a couple of weeks. 88% of people interviewed said it was going to be difficult to have the same level of meal they had last year.
Because of finances.
Because of finances, which
Not
means
political.
people are in trouble.
Yeah.
Right. And they don't have money, and they don't have any resources because they never saved anything.
Mm-hmm.
But they have a really nice car that's on lease or they're paying for, and they have a house that they couldn't afford. And we think people are doing really well, and we compare ourselves to them, and we don't know what's behind those four walls.
Right. Yeah.
So think about that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to close up for the day.
Yep. Everything we talked about will be at winningatselling.com.
Next week, no book club. And we're going to have a guest, Manny Style, active listening. He should be great.
He will be great. Yes.
Go out and get better, one skill at a time.
Joyful selling.